salute them, and until dusk this Anzac Day, we remembered them. From our far west to our beaches, today Queenslanders came together to say thank you and honour our Anzac heroes. Here in the city, steady rain couldn't deter the crowds or dampen the Anzac spirit. Jessica Millward begins our special coverage.
Forever a sound that stirs deep emotion. The last post piercing through the pre-dawn silence as veterans, their families, parents and children stood in the rain to remember them. The Governor, Dr Jeanette Young, delivered the opening address reflecting on this day at dawn, 108 years ago, when our soldiers landed on Gallipoli's shores.
The Great War, that was meant to last for a few weeks, lasted for over 4 years. By its end, more than 10,000 Queenslanders had been killed.
This year, particularly poignant, marking 70 years since the end of the Korean War, 50 years since Australian troops left Vietnam. Wreaths laid inside the Shrine of Remembrance, a mark of respect for the fallen and those who bravely fought and came home.
I did 2 tours of East Timor. I've served in Somalia, Middle East in Iraq.
I served in the Middle East in Iraq and over in the Solomon Islands.
It's my mates on my left here, especially, we're all passionate about it, and to see young kids coming along, school uniforms or just their normal gear is really, really good.
2 of my uncles have served in the war.
Does that make you very proud?
Yes, a lot.
Despite the rain, 15,000 people turned out to the dawn service, hundreds more throughout the morning, coming here to have their own personal reflection at the eternal flame. Across the country, crowds gathered in solemn reflection in capital cities and in our state's east, far west and north. And with our nation's flag flying high came a perpetual promise.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Jessica Millward, 9 News.
A moving morning too on the Gold Coast. Tens of thousands gathering on our beaches to pay tribute to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
A seaside salute to those who've served. Elephant Rock painted poppy red. Currumbin is a long way from Gallipoli, but the rugged stretch of beachfront stirs with Anzac spirit. It's alive in Southport too, a small but passionate contingent of veterans arriving to their dawn service on their terms. Council scrapped the suburbs' early parade this year, but the group defied marching orders.
It was just a bit of a rebel march, that's all.
Flags flapping in gusting winds, the commemorations spanning generations.
We've been going to those services ever since she was the same age.
Keep the memory going of what happened and why we live such a good life in Australia.
Spreading from the sand to the streets.
Crowds like these are today gathering all along the coastline. The public watching on with gratitude and current and former servicemen and women parading with pride. Morris Hart fought in Papua New Guinea in World War II.
I was a gunner in an anti-tank regiment, and we went in as infantry, of course, because there were no tanks to shoot at.
Next week, the Gold Coaster marks his 100th birthday.
I'm the only one left of the unit. I keep in touch with the son of one of the boys.
He'll be surrounded by family who carry his legacy. Abby Guerin, 9 News.
The heartwarming spirit lasted well into the day as thousands of Queenslanders gathered in Brisbane's CBD for the annual ANZAC Day Parade. Both young and old cheering on as those who still could stepped in line together to pay tribute to those who'd made the ultimate sacrifice.
On a day where time stands still, a march begins on a well-trodden path. Veterans falling back into line, walking shoulder to shoulder with those who can, for those who can't.
Remembering all the guys that should be here and not.
Leonard McLeod was just 15 years old when he lied on his application to sign up, shipped off to fight in World War II. Shot and medically discharged 1 year later.
It was the biggest battle in the whole Pacific War.
The 96 or 104-year-old, depending on which army papers you look at, says in all those years the meaning of today has never lost its significance.
It means an awful lot to me.
This is the 107th time Brisbane's ANZAC Day Parade has marched its way through the CBD. And as you can see from all the people packed in alongside the roads behind me, it still is an important tradition as ever.
15,000 people descended on the city. Current service men and women proudly following in the footsteps taken before them.
It's exciting because we get to see all the people that were in the army.
For those who've served, it's a day to reflect.
It's all the people who have fallen we've lost, and we've lost a lot of people in our squadron.
It's the biggest today, and then had it very, very hard.
As the march continued to wind its way through the CBD, even a quick shower couldn't dampen the spirit or resolve. A different kind of pouring at the Story Bridge Hotel, as the sombre morning quickly flipped into an afternoon of camaraderie.
2-up's a proud thing we do on ANZAC Day. It's the best, mate.
Live to Cam Inglis now at the Breakfast Creek Hotel. Cam, what's the mood like there?
Well, Andrew, here at the Brecky Creek Hotel, the 2-up has just wrapped up and many veterans have gone inside to further catch up. And that's a big part of what today is all about. We spoke to one squadron member who said he hadn't seen part of his team in 15 years. So these catch-ups will be happening right across Queensland and again showing why this day is so important to so many people. Andrew?
Thanks, Cam. Well, every year, the original landing site of the ANZAC soldiers draws a crowd to Gallipoli at the peninsula in Turkey. More than 1,000 people braving frigid temperatures to secure to a space to pay their respects.
As the sun sets over this quiet cove, the birthplace of the ANZAC legend, Australians take the final steps of a long journey to Gallipoli. National pride more than enough to inspire the pilgrimage, but this experience takes on even more meaning for those with family who served.
Great Uncle Jim was shot on the 27th of April in Shrapnel Gully, I understand. We'll be walking Shrapnel Gully in a couple of days and we'll go and visit.
More than 8,000 Aussies and New Zealanders lost their lives here 108 years ago. The deep bonds between our nations on display. Braving the outdoors overnight, the lawn a sea of blankets and beanies. Among the crowd, Gary Mason. He served in the Gulf War, but was still stunned by the Gallipoli Peninsula.
The cliff behind us is just horrific. I hate to have had to come off those boats and be confronted with, the weapons and not knowing what they were getting into.
Their courage and sacrifice honoured first with silence. Before the service was opened by our country's oldest cultures. A Maori call to gathering followed by the playing of a didgeridoo. As dawn approached, rain started to fall, drenching the sand where so many young men first faced the horrors of war.
Soaking wet and weighed down by their rifles and sodden packs, the ANZACs dug their bayonets into the earth to keep from falling, as the killed and wounded slid back down the slope around them.
The blue of first light revealing ANZAC Cove's daunting cliffs. Members of the one-time enemy force with a touching gesture of respect and friendship. This is the biggest attendance at ANZAC Cove in some years, and it's expected the crowds may continue growing now as the people who've come here today return home and share their stories and memories they'll never forget.
To be in the actual land where it occurred was a real moving experience.
At ANZAC Cove, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
And now to Villers-Bretonneux in western France, where Australia played a key role, beating back the German offensive in 1918. Brett McLeod is there. Brett, it's clear there's a deep connection between these two nations.
Well, Andrew, we heard the French and Australian national anthems side by side and the sound of a didgeridoo echoing out around these hills where hundreds of thousands of Australians fought and so many died. And there was a lovely tribute on a beautiful, quite spectacular display that was put on here during the dawn service from the French government representative, who said it's an honour for the French to watch over the graves of your loved ones. She was standing in front of a wall which has 10,000 Australian names on it, just a fraction of those who were killed on the Western Front. So it's no surprise when I spoke to a lot of Australians who'd come here afterwards that they said they felt chills, not just because of the cold weather.
It's very emotional, very special.
To walk around Bretonneux and see all the Australian flags in everyone's houses, and there's kangaroos and wombats, and there's a real sense, there's a real bond.
I didn't realise how much respect and goodwill the French have towards Aussies.
Seems like there's growing recognition too of the importance of Villers-Bretonneux in turning the tide of the war on Anzac Day 1918. There are actually more people here this year than on Anzac Cove.
Thanks, Brett. Karianne Greenbank is at London's Hyde Park at the Australian War Memorial, where today's dawn service was led by royalty.
Well, Prince William has led the commemoration here in London this morning, laying the first wreath at the dawn service here at Hyde Park Corner. He joined hundreds of Australians, New Zealanders and Defence Force personnel at this service, including Australia's new High Commissioner to the UK, Stephen Smith, and his New Zealand counterpart.
It was a great honour to have Prince William come along and lead the service today, and also the number in the crowd just shows the support here in England for Anzac Day for Australians and New Zealanders.
Anzac Day has been commemorated here in London since 1916, the first anniversary of the Gallipoli landings. King George V attended a service at Westminster Abbey. The Abbey will once again be holding a service of thanksgiving later today.
More than 30,000 people braved the cold in Canberra, paying their respects at our National War Memorial. Among the dignitaries, the Prime Minister with a commemorative address.
We hope that war will one day be done, that the cause of peace will prevail, and we can stop inscribing names on memorials. But even then, we will keep gathering before the dawn. We will gather together. We will gather for them. It is because of them that we can await the light.
The service was followed by a veterans' march, including 100-year-old Les Cook, one of the country's last surviving World War II veterans.
So many beautiful, beautiful images, but we are going to move on to other news now. And a Fortitude Valley